And that's the thing. It was a lot of close games, a lot of overtime games. It was like 2 or 3 overtime games.
Champs, they're going to win. They have a lot to prove.
Baltimore is always a well-coached team. They've always made excellent decisions in the offseason.
We're going to start things off with a big happy birthday to Coach because he just celebrated a birthday. So happy birthday, Coach. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm great. Blessed to see another year, another whirl around the sun here. So that's always a good thing, because life is it's precious. And so I'm grateful to have another birthday.
Well, so glad to be back. I know there's a lot of things that have happened. Life gets in the way, but we are back. We're going to talk about football because there's a lot of things that we have to get caught up on now. This headline in particular, it's one that we've seen happen season after season after season. This is nothing new, but big news, big headline. Tua, Dolphins quarterback. We've said how many times it's Tua time. Back and cleared to play against the Lions this weekend. We all saw that unfold 2 weeks on the field, and then we saw what it ultimately ended up doing. He doesn't remember that moment. He doesn't remember being carted off the field. Now, Coach, I don't know why, but I feel very, very sensitive, very emotional about this. Because, he was told that maybe it's time to not play anymore. Maybe it's time to hang up those cleats because we're now dealing with something very major, and that is your head. He is cleared. Coach, do you feel like he should be playing this weekend?
I think they probably should hold him out because a head injury is a very, tricky, sensitive thing that we don't really have all the information about, and, it's just one of those things to where you don't want to jeopardize him long term, but to get deeper than this, with Tua, anytime you draft a quarterback that's a small frame guy like he is, a lot of these small frame quarterbacks, they have huge upside, but potentially in the long run with injuries, it's a concern because he's a small frame guy. He's not a big quarterback. And so, unfortunately, I think his injuries with him is going to be an ongoing thing. But to answer your question specifically, you never want to be too aggressive with getting a guy back from a head injury. So I would continue to hold him out, but
because stats I've read stats on it. I've had a concussion myself. Okay, I was in a car accident and they told me that the impact that I had for my concussion was like getting hit on a field like a football player without your helmet on. I'm still have issues from it. So I'm just surprised that they're saying that they did not learn a lesson from the first time around when the doctor cleared him to come back the next week. Now they're like, oh no, he's fine. He's good. He took 2 weeks. He's fine. Let him play. Now we talk about head injuries and, we've heard the stories of some football players. Look at Aaron Hernandez and, multiple others we've had from Hodge on here. I can't even speak myself right now. It's just because I feel very passionate about this and very emotional that he is playing. I don't know. I think that he's doing more damage than harm and he should sit it out. I totally agree with you on this one.
Yeah. It's going to have to be someone to intervene to hold him out because that warrior instinct that most football players have, we don't allow ourselves to go out of the game. We feel we're letting our team down and we're just programmed to always want to play no matter what. So it would take a professional to actually make that decision for him, most likely.
Okay, well, we'll see how he plays and how that game pans out. I'm nervous for him. I'm going to be honest. I'm very nervous for him because I would really hate to see him take another hit. But then you got to think of the opposing team. They're not going to want to go near him. Tua's going to be bubble wrapped. They're just going to stop a play and be like, sorry, dude, I don't want to be the one to be responsible for this. So, it's not really fair for the opposing team.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I didn't even think about that. You do have that, a guy with a head injury, you would be more cautious because you don't want to be responsible for anything permanent with him. So that's definitely something to think about as well. This is going to be it's going to be an ongoing thing in the NFL. You're going to have these type of situations and it's just a difficult call, you know.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we'll see how the game turns out on Sunday. Now, another person making a headline. He's no stranger to the headlines. We know that Tom Brady and Giselle, there's multiple speculations as to why they're breaking up, why they're not together, why they're divorced, getting divorce lawyers. She's not in the box supporting her man. He's not doing very well. And now he's starting to think like, man, I gave up my family for this. But then just in the last 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, in the last couple of days, he's saying playing football is equivalent to being in the military and being deployed.
Yeah.
I mean, what is going on with Brady? I get he has come out just in the last couple of hours, and he did apologize.
Yeah.
Coach, what do you see is happening with him? Like, he's fallen apart.
I understand what he's saying. He just probably worded it in a bad way.
Going away for 24 hours. He's not going away for years.
He's talking about the time that it consumes. You know, when you're a part of an NFL team, it consumes over 100 hours a week of your time.
I get that. But to compare it to a military person who's putting their life on the line, and they're not just going away for a couple of days, they're gone for years.
Yeah.
I get that he's apologized. Okay. And you're right. He used the wrong words maybe, but.
Yeah. I don't think he meant about the danger part of it. I think he's talking about the time that it consumes.
I get it. But what is really going on with Brady? We're seeing him fall apart. The dude is skinny, is the skinniest we've ever seen him.
Yeah.
He's now saying he has no retirement in his future.
Yeah.
Okay, that was in the last couple of hours after he apologized. Now he's like, I don't see retire. I'm not going to retire. So now he's living the bachelor life, right?
Yeah.
He wants to be on top of the world. But his mind everything that's been going on has gotten to him.
Yeah. Well, sounds like she doesn't want to be with him, and sounds like he's came to grips with that. And, you know, it's stressful, you know, breakups are difficult. And it seems like he really loved her. And it seems like, you know, he's kind of, you know, coming to a realization that it's over.
Did he love her, or did he love the fact that he had someone at home taking care of everything while he was doing what he was doing? I'm just going to play both sides of this. So
I look at it like this. When you have his type of celebrity and money, you could pay anyone you want to take care of everything at home.
That's true.
I mean,
do you feel, I mean, a coach's perspective, and that's what I love that you give that coach's perspective. Do you feel that maybe heading into week 7, that he can turn himself around? I mean, he's had the outrages on the sidelines. He can't control his temper. He's all over the place when it comes to that. Do you think that there is hope for him and his team? Because it's not just him, it's his whole team. We've seen the whole team fall apart. Is there hope for the Bucs?
You know, that's difficult to say, but, you know, you look at all the changes that the Bucs have went through. Mm-hmm. You know, like I said, they have been limited, you know, with the weapons that they have for him. They have a new coach. They lost Bruce Arians. They have new leadership. And, you know, oftentimes great leadership can hold a team together, can allow a team to improve from a morale standpoint. A great leadership can do many things to motivate a team to turn it around through rough spots. And they don't have Bruce Arians. And Todd Bowles is not a proven head coach. I'm rooting for him. I'd like for him to do well. But when has he ever proven to be a terrific head coach? You know, so There's a lot of uncertainty there. Obviously, the quarterback is the most important position. And Brady is definitely in the spotlight in that regard. And, you know, like I said, I feel like they can turn it around because they have a lot of veterans on the team that can, that can provide that leadership that you may not be getting from a coaching aspect. So, you know, I wouldn't count the Bucs out.
I get it. We're heading into week 7. What? How many more?
I mean, we're almost halfway through the season. Yeah.
Right. And I get that. It's just, you know, he came back for a reason and all of a sudden everything's fallen apart. So it just seems like he can't he can't control himself right now. So we'll see how those headlines pan out, especially this weekend. And we'll see if they can pull off a win. Now, no matter if you watched the game, the Bills last weekend or not.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what a game. And of course, all the memes of the Josh Allen jump in the air, the hurdle where he's in the air and he's all over the place now. Everyone's been adding him on all of their stuff, and he's actually enjoying a baseball game. He's out with his girlfriend because they're on a bye week.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Bills. Oh my gosh, they are just every week.
You know, I was coming through the airport this past weekend, and I was going through Vegas, and I saw so many Buffalo Bills jerseys, like everywhere I looked. And I'm thinking, like, did they play Oakland this week? It was weird. I don't know why I saw so many Bills jerseys in the Vegas airport, but Josh Allen has them surging. I mean, he is he's living up to the billing. You know, they're 5-1. They lead the division, and they're the hottest team in the league right now. They're playing pretty good defense. You know, they're holding their opponents, I think, right now to 81 points on the season. So, I mean, they seem to have the complete package, you know, and
you don't even have to be a Bills fan, but you're a Bills fan. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if you are or not. There's a part of you that's like wowed by this team.
Yeah. You know, you have a lot of people that aren't Bills fans, but are probably rooting for the Bills because they've been a team that have had misfortune in the history of their franchise by getting so close and not sealing the deal. And this is probably the best team. This is the best Buffalo Bills team we've probably ever seen, even going back to the old teams.
I know ever since we have been doing this show, every season, I'm like, the Bills. And every year they're just getting higher and higher up on, like, they're just elevating. It's, you know, just exploding. I mean, this is their moment. I mean, there's a lot of teams though. I mean, look at the Giants, 5-1.
Yeah. That's surprising there. I mean, again, they got new leadership, and you know, a lot of people, we didn't think the Giants had the talent to be where they're at, but they've been winning games. They're getting W's, and that's what's important.
I know. I am a happy girl.
Is it a fluke? Is it the new leadership? You know, they got a guy from the Belichick tree. Yeah, it's exciting to see. I mean, a lot of it's the run game. They've had a healthy Saquon Barkley, and he's putting up numbers in the run game. So you have that run game, and you know they're playing solid defense, and they're squeaking out some wins there.
Now, no confirmed reports because there's actually two teams that Odell Beckham Jr. is leaning towards. Some are saying he is going to go to the Bills. Yeah. Some are like, no, he's really focused on going to Kansas. And there's been talks. Where do you feel, coach's perspective, where do you feel that OBJ should go?
I think he'll probably end up in Kansas. I think at this point he is probably ring chasing. He sees the Bills are a hot team. He knows he can jump on there, maybe get another ring.
And wagon.
Yeah. But, you know, I think he would end up in Kansas because they could utilize him more. They're hurting at receiver. He'll get a lot more run in Kansas City. And he knows he has a great quarterback to throw to him. You know, you just got questions with Kansas City's defense and, you know, and just can they get it back rolling the way they used to have it, you know, but then again, I just feel like OBJ, he's a good player, but he's more hyped in performance, in my opinion.
Well, you know, speaking of the Chiefs, I mean, look at Mahomes right now. Yeah. People are riding his ass because it's like we weren't expecting that for them to lose last week. Yeah. I think they were favored to win, even though we know that the Bills are on fire. And then you have Mahomes. Now, every time he loses, it messes with his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see the comeback for that. Now, another headline. He's back. Dak is back. He's back after being out with the injury. Then we had the problem with the coach doing quarterback against quarterback. And it was kind of like headlines were making it like, okay, your job's not going to be here. I'm going to take your job. Now he's back.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Dak? I mean, we're heading into week 7.
One thing I learned about the NFL is it always seems like the player that they have the most money invested into is always going to get the nod. Right. You know, from a political standpoint, they're very much more invested in Dak financially and he's going to be the guy when he comes back. So the other guy was just in kind of hopefully to get a few wins, but we all know Dak is the better player, and they're a better team with Dak Prescott at the helm.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll see. There's a lot of games this week where they're like the must-watch games because you just want to see how things progress, especially like we said, the Miami game, Tua back, Dak back. Now, Aaron Rodgers, he was out for practice this week. Got a sore thumb. Yeah. He had an injury for the last game. I don't know how to take Aaron these days. I still don't like his haircut. I mean, that's the biggest, like, okay, back in my day, if you had hair like that, like you were just a jerk and you just like, they were just the D-bags. But I don't know how to take him these days.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers? I mean, if he can't play this weekend, hey, I guess I'm not picking the Packers.
Yeah. I mean, regarding his hair, I think he's a guy that just kind of likes to keep people talking. He likes people talking about him.
Yeah.
He plays in a small market with a small market team.
Yeah.
And you got to do a little bit extra to keep people talking about you. You know, I mean, Green Bay, even though they have legendary history, it's still a small market team. And anything that he does that's a little edgy that make headlines, I think he likes and appreciates it. And I think when it comes time to negotiation time to have your name as popular as possible, it helps you to get a few extra dollars on those contracts.
Right.
So, you know, I always give it to Giannis, and I feel like that's what that's about.
Do you think he's going to retire?
No.
You think he's going to keep going? Because now Brady's saying, I'm never going to retire.
Yeah.
I'm like the memes of him being 70 years old and still playing. I mean, at what point do you say, you know what, maybe I'm better a coach than I am or on the sideline versus on the field?
Yeah. Well, there's a significant age difference between them. And I think Rodgers has, you know, if he takes good care of his body, he has 4 really good years left and maybe a couple other solid years after that. I think you could see him at least 5 or 6 more years.
Yeah. You
know, with the way guys are these days and with the way science is to allow guys to take care of their body. So I don't think he's going anywhere. But I do think if they don't win in Green Bay, he's going to get frustrated and want to get out of there. Like he's been like he was last year. They gotta win. They gotta win in Green Bay because he's concerned about his legacy and putting up another championship team before he calls it quits.
And that's something that is the only thing that is predictable this season is the frustration that is happening on the bench. Yeah. I mean, my pools that I'm in, 2 weeks ago, I was at first place for my straight picks. Mm-hmm. I was winning it, and it came down to points. So then I came into I could drop to second. You have no idea how mad I was. And then last week, I'm at the bottom of the list because my picks were just crap. So the only thing that is predictable is that there is a quarterback being frustrated on a bench.
Yeah. The NFL is hard to pick.
It is.
I've given up on it a while back. Yeah. So
they're just like playing with my emotions.
I started picking the opposite of what I think, and I've had more success with that.
Okay, I might have to do that. So we're going to post our picks for week 7. We're not going to go through it here, but we will post. I mean, I've already done all my research. I've picked it. Who knows? So I will send it to you. We will post it. If you're watching the KickSix podcast and you have any comments about something that we've said along the way, please just post it. If you would like to be on the pod, follow us, comment, share it with your friends. Now, we have a special segment right now that we are adding, and it's Coach Kirk Broussard, and this is called Inspiration. So, Coach, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to be able to bring awareness to anyone that may be going through a difficult time, a hardship, a time where you may be doubting yourself. I just kind of want to share some of my experiences, you know, with our listeners to kind of give them some insight on, you know, what's taking place with me and how I was able to get through those moments. And one of the things that immediately comes to mind was a time when I was a freshman in college at Pasadena City College in California. And, you know, I was an unheralded high school player. I was discovered by this junior college through a combine. And I decided to take, the last $600 I had to my name and take a Greyhound bus from Florida to California. So at that time, I knew the head coach. I didn't know anyone else in California. Didn't have any friends or family who were in Southern California. And when you're 19, that's a big step. And obviously didn't have a lot of finances, so I took a Greyhound bus from Florida to California, again with $600 to my name. And when I arrived in California, there was a lot of difficult times that were facing me. And I just want to share a story of something specific that happened to me that a lot of times I question many things. Was that meant for me? Was that the right place for me to be? And I just want to talk about what happened to me and how I got through it. And there was this one particular instance where obviously, so when I got to California, the scholarship covered tuition and books, but we had to cover our own housing. And so when I arrived, it was actually during the summer. And so, I had that entire summer to kind of find a way to cover my housing, to, be prepared for the fall, to have a place to live and have things go smoothly. And when I first arrived, they had me staying in a Florida house, is what they call the house. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was a 3-bedroom house, and we had 13 guys living in a 3-bedroom house. And I remember walking in that house and seeing all those guys living in this house. And the way they had it set up, you had bunk beds in each room, and you had a single bed in each room. And so you had 9 guys in 3 bedrooms. And then you had a guy on the couch, you had a guy behind the couch on an air mattress, and then you had 2 of us sleeping in the dining room on air mattresses. And I was able to get an air mattress, and I was sleeping in a dining room on an air mattress, chasing a junior college football dream. And I remember telling my mom, where I was staying and the conditions, and she basically said to give up and come back home. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking that I wanted to stick it out. I wanted to ride it out and try to, make it. We weren't in this house long. When you got 18, 19-year-old guys in a house, it's very rowdy, it's very loud. They're damaging things. The owner had came by and did an inspection and noticed things that were broken, holes in walls, and neighbors complaining about the noise. We literally were right across from the university, and we ended up getting, across from the junior college, we ended up getting evicted from the house. And so at that point, none of us had a place to stay. So a lot of guys had been in California for a year, so they had friends and they had places they could kind of go. But I didn't have anything because I just got to this house 2 weeks ago. I was only in there for 2 weeks. So at that point, I was homeless. And again, I only had that $600. And so I ended up, I was down about $500. And I found some other guys on the team to room up with. And those guys had a house in mind that we're going to move into. And so my portion of the move-in costs, I was actually $300 shy of what I needed. And so I decided we weren't allowed to work during the season, but we can get jobs in the summer and the off season. Mm-hmm. And I decided that I couldn't call home for the money. My mom, they didn't have it. My family didn't have it. And so I decided to find a job. And obviously I had to find one fast because we're getting evicted in a few days. And so I started on Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena, and I was going in different stores applying for jobs. I must have went in probably 15, 16 stores, up and down this main drag. And I ended up going in an Army surplus store. And again, I was $300 shy of what I needed to get in this house. And I'm a guy from the South. I'm from humble beginnings, and I don't take handouts, and that's the way I was taught. So I ended up going in this store, and I asked her for an application. And the lady behind the counter was absolutely a beautiful lady. I mean, she looked like a human Barbie. And we started talking, and she gave me an application. And while I'm filling out the application, she's just asking me questions about myself. And she's telling me about herself. And she had told me that she was a radio host in San Diego, one of the biggest ones in San Diego. And you know, beautiful lady, very well articulated. And so as I'm filling out the application, she's asking me questions about myself, and I told her I'm just got out here from Florida playing football, and you know, and I need to get a job. You know, I didn't really share specifically about my situation and the money I needed to get into this house, or I was going to be living on the street. But while I'm doing the application, I noticed out of my peripheral that she goes into her purse and she pulls out her checkbook. And this lady, I've known her for 5 minutes. She's pretty much a complete stranger. And as I'm filling out the application, I see her take a checkbook out, and she writes the check out for $300. And that's exactly what I needed to get into this apartment. And she left the name blank. And then I noticed she glanced at my application, and she copied my name from the application onto the check. And she hands me a check for $300, a complete stranger, a lady I just met. And I said, "What is this?" And she said, "God told me to give it to you." And I'm sitting there with my mouth open. I couldn't believe it. And I said, "I can't accept this." I gave her the check back to her. And she said, "You have to accept it because God told me to give it to you." And she said, "I can't take it back." And I said, "Well, let me earn it. Let me do something around the store and I'll work it off." She said, "You can't earn it. You can't work it off. I have to give it to you as a gift because that's what God told me to do." And I was just amazed. I was like, I have to do something. I have to do something to pay you back. She said, "What are you doing this evening?" I said, "I got practice at 2:00. She said, "Well, what are you doing after practice?" And I said, "Nothing." And she said, "Well, I'll tell you what, come to Bible study with me tonight. And if you do that, consider the debt clear." And
wow.
The lady picked me up from practice. I went to Bible study with her. She was so strong in her faith. She told me a story about her husband who had left her for his secretary. And she said her faith was so strong that she knows God is going to deliver him back to her, and she's just waiting. And she was just she's just a lady that walked on faith. And you would never know it by her appearance. She looked like she was from 90210 Beverly Hills, just a lady. And that reassured me that there definitely is a God, and he was impacting my life. And that little $300 got me over the hump to get into the apartment. And then I got a job and I got things rolling, and things got a lot better for me. And I just wanted to share that with someone that may be listening, that may be going through something difficult, that, you know, if you remain faithful and you remain in prayer, you know, great things can happen to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm speechless. I have tears in my eyes because you gave me chills. Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us and letting us know a part of your life that I can totally, you're right. If somebody's listening and they're going through a hard time, because we're all the same.
Yeah.
I mean, we all go through hard times, and I feel like I needed to hear that too for a reason. So Coach Kirk Broussard, thank you so much for sharing.